equally.
Try that. Your relationship with all your children is different. Your relationship with all your friends is different. There are ones that do different things that have different fulfillments and stuff like that.
Hey, and welcome back to my channel. Today's date is May 23rd, 2025, and it's Friday, the longest season of Sister Wives history, May. The season kicked off way back in September, and we are now at 9 months, and we're going to be in the show now, tell all. And I would have thought that coming out of, this concept that everything had been buried at the funeral of Garrison, that's what Kody said. Everything was buried. They were together. Everything was fine. Yeah, that lasted 2 seconds, not even at the funeral. And unfortunately for Garrison, that everything was viewed on TV. But then we're at the tell-all again, and we're back to screaming and yelling and fighting over Kody and Robyn, and Kody and Robyn going off on everybody else and not realizing that they contributed to the explosiveness in this family. And after all of those years of watching Kody and all the times he lied to us about how much he loved these women and spent years and years and years trying to deceive us all into believing this was, one big happy family, and he was doing it all on an even keel, and he was giving, and he was doing all the things. I mean, he spent years living in that narrative, and if Christine didn't leave him, they'd be quoting that today. That is the point. I just want to make this. Kody would not be admitting that he fell in love with Robyn if the other women would have stayed and just let him do whatever he wanted like they had for years. He would have been fine with them all, never seeing their faces, as long as they didn't say anything about his secrets. And they knew what was going on, so nothing really changed. The only thing is that they don't cover for him anymore. And so now he's tired of having to justify what he has done. And I believe most of us are just sick of hearing the debate about the breakups. But Suki's being compensated for a job, right? And she's being asked to recap the season with them and have them do their tell-all where they can talk about everything that happened all season. And if we need to start from the very beginning, that means we're starting with Mary moving and leaving Kody behind, and then Janelle actually moving out from Flagstaff to North Carolina. And so the family in this season completely breaks down. It was actually broken down at the end of season 18, but season 19, the beginning of it, confirmed that end. It was done. So we have to go all the way back again now and talk about why it's over. And for Kody to try to justify all that he has done, he must rewrite history and make it so that he's just the victim of some guy who fell in love with him. But that sort of misses the point. But what I detest about all of this is that instead of just simply behaving like an adult and not getting angry, not getting dramatic, he has to lose it on Suki. So much so that Suki, for the very first time, finally seems to have had it with Kody. And if I were getting paid for this job, I would quit, I swear. If anyone spoke to me like this, there is no way I would be okay with someone insulting and being just so condescending like this. And he just goes on and on, spewing objectionable language. That's just awful. Kody will never admit. And even after his son died, he won't just sit back and admit that he did things wrong and that the reason why this fell apart was because of him. Too many times when people don't know the answer to a question, instead of answering the question, I feel that there are people who just get loud and angry and scream and yell. And I think that we all have that within our capabilities. We all can scream and yell, but here, it's like he's yelling and screaming and pouting because he's trying really hard to emphatically make the point that he doesn't want to talk about this and that he's tired of it. And it's entirely missing the point, okay? The question, as I see it, was, the loving the wives the same, covenant of plural marriage, where the entire concept of the relationships is that you're supposed to be expanding your capacity. Clearly, it's a broken system. It was established by a cult leader, Joseph Smith, who was merely trying to cheat on his wife. And he developed this whole scheme about polygamy after he got caught by his wife and by people that he abducted and by other members of his church, his followers. Either way, that is irrelevant to this point. The point is that he is like getting angry for no reason. There is no reason. That he can't just answer this question. And so instead, he has to just yell and scream about how his relationship with Robyn is divine, which is really insulting if you know their faith. Because they're all in their faith. All of the relationships are supposed to be divine. So what does that mean about his other marriages? They weren't divine. They weren't called from God. It wasn't destiny. Because for how many years did Kody say that the relationships were destiny? It felt like they were all supposed to be destined together. Because in their belief system, it is that everything is predestined, predetermined, right? And so you're up in spirit baby land before you come down. And before you even come down, you already have a husband that's supposed to be with you or a wife. And so once you find them, it's supposed to be, oh, you found your spirit person that was already assigned to you before you came to earth. And then your whole time on earth, you're just trying to get all of the spirits from heaven that were already assigned to you because it was divine from God. And so thus, by saying that she is the divine one, it's saying the rest of them weren't. So then what was the point of being with them, Kody? To have sex. The man that says he wasn't a womanizer. These relationships weren't divine. I thought that that was the whole point of your faith. Oh God, and the way that he yells and screams and gets mad. Someone told me once that knows the family. One of Christine's cousins said that anytime that Kody would get mad at one of the women, he would get in their face and yell and scream and like puff out his chest. And this is exactly what he's doing to Suki. It's no different. He hasn't changed. And I hate when people do this to people. Put yourself in Suki's position here. She's sitting there doing a job. Okay. And her job is to ask questions of a talent that's been hired on a show. That's talent for a show called Sister Wives, where the premise of the show is following the stories of a man that had 4 wives. And now it's a story about what happens when a man loses all of his wives. And you're hired by a network to come to a set and ask questions of a man about what happened that season. And you're actually told that you have to stick within a certain bound of questions, because if you don't, the man will probably get huffy and puffy and threaten to walk off set. Now imagine that that man has a contract with a network, and part of that contract means that he is required to finish out his contract. He is required to do what is required within that contract, which means he is required to ask. He's required to film. He's required to answer questions about what was filmed. He's required to participate in a all at the end of the season, where he is asked questions about the season and reflect upon those questions and be asked pointed questions about and respond to what other people have said, no different than the talking heads. He is required under his contract to complete that. That's his responsibility. And instead of doing that and to start and to get away from, a breach of contract, he has a fit. He yells, he screams, and he uses his loud voice to try to remind everyone that he's not gonna do that. And they know, Sister Wives producers, that he has a history of threatening production and threatening people that if he doesn't do something, he will X, Y, and Z. He has had every single woman that has been on the stage with him that has been tell-all host, fired because of questions that they asked that they were hired to ask by the network. He has had Natalie Morales fired. He has had Tamron Hall fired. He has had, I don't even know how many they've had total, maybe 5 or 6 total hosts before Suki that were fired. Suki was hired by TLC to come in, and her job is to follow the script of what they would like her to ask, revisit what's being said on the show. There is definitely an agenda that she is given ahead of time. There are certain questions she's not allowed to ask because it's off limits, and she stays within this script. And she's told, as long as you stay within this script, everything will be fine, and the talent they will participate. They will not be difficult. And that's the framework. As long as you stay within this, everything will be fine. He will not get angry, will be good. But instead, you have to come into an environment where if you ask the question that's on the script, the person that you're asking the question to flips out and screams. Now you're getting paid to do this, and you're getting paid to get yelled and screamed at by someone that's a hostile work environment. I don't know. Suki, maybe you have a claim against TLC for a hostile work environment. And imagine just for a second, what if this was someone like from NBC News? What if this was a Dine NBC episode? What if this was 2020 60 Minutes and Kody was sitting across from a man and acting this way and screaming and yelling? Can you think of other interviews where people have acted like this? I can think of, like, there was a time when R. Kelly got super mad when he was getting interviewed and he screamed and yelled and he walked off the set. I think he was getting interviewed by, was it Gayle King? I can't remember, but there have definitely been people that have been interviewed on the news and then they get so angry, they yell, scream, and walk off set. That's what Kody's doing. And when those people scream, yell, and walk off set and act like this, it's big news and it's embarrassing for that person because of the way that they're acting. But for some reason, when Kody does it, it's entertainment. It's just packaged as though we should accept it because this is how he acts. But Kody is an employee, well, a contractor for TLC, and Suki is a contractor for TLC. And in this exchange, one contractor is literally screaming and yelling at another contractor. Please tell me how this is acceptable for employment. And instead of addressing the issue that is Kody Brown, I guarantee you what will happen is we are going to see more and more and more of him screaming and yelling at Suki, refusing to cooperate, refusing to answer basic questions, and TLC will plate him. They will make it so that he participates and cooperates instead of holding firm to their contract. Because, I sometimes think, what if the producers just said to Kody, hey, listen, dude, you need to calm the F down. You need to stop yelling at our hired journalist that's here to ask questions. This is inappropriate behavior. It's an unsafe work environment for her with how you're screaming and yelling and posturing towards her, which is aggressive. It's a threatening manner in which you're talking to her. You need to calm the F down, Kody, or we're going to hold you in breach of contract. Do you think anyone on the staff of Sister Wives has ever said that to Kody? Do you think anyone has held his feet to the fire and said, listen, you need to stop treating people this way? Do you think they have ever tried? Because they're the ones that have the power here. And if TLC believes that it's okay in 2025 for anyone to sit across from anyone there where two individuals are being paid by the network and to have one be this verbally abusive to the other, is that okay? What kind of I've invested all this time concentrating on, and working on this case with Blake Lively and Justin Baldwin. And at the center of that case, it's all about workplace hostile environments of work environment that didn't take place on the set of Wayfair, right, of the movie, but her claims that it did. And investing all this time learning about workplace discrimination and workplace hostile environments and the rights of individuals that are being worked, that are working on sets in production. And I'm sitting here watching it from that point of view, now thinking, what are TLC producers communicating? Telling the women that come onto his set, their set that they're paying, if they're going to justify and excuse this type of behavior. She didn't do anything that deserved that response. She didn't do anything where he could yell and scream at her like that. He was not just yelling about Christine or the wives or everyone. Loving Robyn, he's literally yelling at Suki at this point and telling her that this line of questioning is inappropriate and not acceptable when nothing she did, nothing wrong. And then when she simply tries to point out that he contradicted himself because he did, he's like, I don't want to talk about it. So the message is explicit. If you carry on with this line of action, I'm walking off set. So who is watching over Suki in this position? Is this the reason Suki is looking away to the producer, shaking her head at one point, Literally, she's looking off camera. You know she's looking at the person that's behind the camera because that producer is sitting beside the camera. They do in every single tell, all. And you know that she is shaking her head at that producer and saying to them, I'm not okay with this. Who's keeping Suki safe from this kind of behavior? What is it gonna take for TLC to wake up that this kind of abusive treatment isn't okay? You know, she's gonna get fired by Kody this season. I guarantee you it. Or she's going to quit. Because how many times do you have to stand on stage in front of a man where he yells and screams at you? How many seasons is she gonna keep doing this? Is it worth, I don't know, 10 grand? Maybe she makes for this 20 grand. I'm placing that bet that she doesn't make much money for these tell-alls. Is it worth that amount of exposure that your job requires, getting yelled and screamed at? Because if you were working for NBC, this wouldn't be happening. If you were working for CBS, this wouldn't be happening. You would have people actually protecting you. You would have a union. This is not safe working environment for anyone. Why isn't Kody ever held accountable for this? I mean, it takes away from the fact that everything he's saying is just crap. Kody has no respect for anybody, and nobody holds him accountable, not even TLC. Do you think that this is gonna be like a cutoff for Suki, where she's like, I can't do this anymore? Do you think TLC will ever hold him accountable? Can you think of any other TV show where this is tolerated? I've never seen it done before. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.